podcast.
All right. What's up, Fight Bros podcast listeners? Coming at you today with Fight Bros MMA Show number 52. We're continuing our series with Titans of the Cage. Titans of the Cage 33 is coming down at May 20th at the Withville Meeting Center. I've got a great guest for you today. He will be in the co-main event of Titans of the Cage 33. I'd like to welcome to the podcast today Mr. Brandon Webb. Thank you for coming on, Brandon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, kind of the first question I like to ask each of our guests on here is, how did you get started in MMA? What's kind of your origins of kind of going into that field there?
I originally started as a teenager and young adult in traditional martial arts, Taekwondo under Craig Cruz and Galax. And I've got a black belt under him. And then I transitioned into MMA first with Dean Powell's. He was in Galax, Virginia, but now he's located in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. And his fighting system was called Elite Combat Martial Arts, Powell's Valley Tudo.
Okay.
We trained a lot of Greco-Roman wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, kickboxing, clinch work, grappling, pretty much MMA. But, it was labeled as Valley Tudo. And I done that. It was pretty much prior to 2010. And I kind of got out of it for a while because I was focusing on my career. And then more recently, I got back into it because of my children. My oldest son, I'd always taught him a few things. They wasn't very interested, but I wanted them to at least be able to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So Elijah Webb's his name. When he turned 15, he said, I want to be an MMA fighter. So I said, all right. So I began to teach him some more things that I knew because he was more interested at that time, at the same time as trying to locate a good MMA gym in my area.
Yeah.
And so we come across Ring Combat Sports in Withville, Virginia. It's the closest place to me that has some actually really good people, really good trainers, really good teammates. And I had watched their fighters at Titans of the Cage. I'd watched a lot of the Titans of the Cage events, and I knew that they knew what they were doing. I mean, you could tell they had good trainers because they was well-rounded fighters. So we went and enrolled my son there first. And my work schedule was busy. And I really didn't have too much of an intention of enrolling myself at that time. But as my son got involved, and then we enrolled my other 3 children, which are younger, and I would come take them to practice once in a while. Head coach Greg Green, he said Elijah had told him that I had trained MMA and martial arts before, so he was trying to get me to join the class. So yeah. He said I looked like I was still in good physical shape, and wanted to get me in there with them. It'd be good for me and the kids. So that's how I started back with them in 2021. And then he kind of assessed, what sort of level I had, and seen I wasn't a complete novice. So he asked me if I wanted to participate in Titans of the Cage. And we tried to set some matches up at previous events, and for whatever reason, the opponents would fall out or whatever. So I didn't get to actually do the fights. I put in the work, my training camps and everything, and then they fell out. So then we fast forward till now, but Greg gave me the opportunity to fight Chris Hamlet, which is a very experienced, he's a veteran here in the amateur region. So I thought, it would be a good opportunity to test my skills and ability against a game opponent that has got a lot of experience, because, some of the lower ranked people, they were sort of intimidated and didn't want to step in the cage with me. And I know this guy will, and we can put on a good show for the fans.
Yes, sir. So you said, is this going to be your first time fighting with Titans in the Cage?
It will.
Yes. Okay. Have you had any amateur bouts before this with another promotion or anything like that?
I've only had one sanctioned amateur bout, and it was under a Muay Thai rule set
Okay.
with Aries Fight Series there in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I I didn't come out victorious on it. And I'm not making any excuses, but I went into the fight with a pretty severe ankle injury, but I wasn't going to pull out. And then midway through the fight, it just became worse. So my coach just went ahead and stopped the fight before I received any more damage. But,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, how did that feel, kind of getting to that first event, being able to compete at that Aries Fight Series for the first time? I mean, regardless of the injury, how did that feel for you to get that experience?
It felt great to get the experience. And even before that, when I was scheduled to fight at the TOCs, I got to experience everything up into. I didn't actually get to step in the cage, but I got to experience the rest of the phase that you go through, which, your training camp, the thought process, preparing yourself mentally, ready to get in there. So I had already done that. So that was easier for me to do once I went to Aries. And
Yes,
overall, it was a good experience.
good. Now, they do professional and amateur bouts. Is that correct?
They do. They
Okay.
do. Yeah. One of our teammates, which is pro fighter Robbie Ring, he's fought under their events. So that's kind of how some of us got involved and was able to go down there as well.
Awesome. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now, kind of basing off something you said earlier, you said your son Elijah, I know you said he's a little older. Has he got the chance to compete yet, or possibly pursuing that?
Yes, he's had some expo bouts. He just turned 18 yesterday, actually.
Oh,
So he's gonna have his first amateur event on the same day, May 20th at Titans of the Cage 33. So it'll be a good one to tune into. And that's one thing. That's one reason I'm doing this. I mean, it's to get to experience this with my son while I'm still physically capable, as far as the training process, and be on the same card with him. So I'm super excited about that.
that's great. I mean, what an experience that's going to be to have you and your son on the same card. Going into battle together there for each other.
Yeah.
That's great. Um, Kind of moving into another subject here. What are kind of your goals that you want to get out of competing in MMA? Are you just doing it for the love of the game, or are you pursuing Titans of the Cage title, or are you pursuing possibly trying to cross into that professional range?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And actually, the way the circumstances landed, there was an opportunity to where me and Chris Hamlet, we are fighting for the light heavyweight Titans of the Cage title. So, and how that kind of came about, I don't know the full story, but one of my teammates, he was Titans of the Cage light heavyweight champ, Tyler Cardwell. He pretty much cleared the division out, and then when COVID hit and it got shut down, he hadn't fought since. So he vacated the belt. So there it is. And Chris Hamlet just had lost his cruiserweight belt. So he was a good candidate to put in for this title fight. And the division's kind of been inactive. So this will hopefully draw more people into it. And I'm just excited to be able to have this opportunity, But really my goals for it though are, just to be, I just love the sport. I love competition. I've always loved fighting. I won't go into a lot of details because I don't want the young adult or the children to think it's okay, but I've had a lot of street fights, things like that. So this is the way to do it, the legal route. But of course I was doing it in self-defense. I will go ahead and put that out there. But
Yeah.
but the main thing is to have this experience with my children and to still show people that it don't matter what your age is. If you've got a goal and you've got the physical abilities, you can still accomplish your goals. Because I'm 39 years old, and I'm Chris Hamlin. I think he's probably at least 12 years younger than me. So it's gonna be a good challenge.
Yes, sir.
I'm up for it.
That's very well said. Yes, sir. Um, so one question I kind of like to ask all the fighters that come on the show. So with amateur fighting, pretty much most of the guys that are involved in amateur fighting, they're working full time. They got a family. So with that being said, I know you have your own business. What keeps you passionate about it and keeps you driven, with all that going on, having a certain amount of time to train,
Yeah, I do. I do electrical and plumbing contracting, so my schedule is very busy, and it takes spells, of course. So sometimes I can get a lot more training in than others, but I try to at least make 3 days a week. A lot of times 5, but I'm working 40 to 70 hours a week on top of that. But it keeps me motivated. Like, how do I say it? I mean, to go in here and train with 22, 23, 28-year olds and show I can still keep up with them, it just keeps me highly motivated, and also to help them get better. I'm in this to help my teammates get better and everything.
Yes, sir. I like that. Now tell me a little bit about running your own business. I believe I've seen this on Facebook. You own your own business, Webb Plumbing and Electric. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about that? How you got started with that?
Yeah. Originally, I started working as an electrician apprentice, and was working 48 hours a week and going to night school at the time for electrical and plumbing. So that's kind of where my MMA training or martial arts training kind of took a back seat. I had to focus on my career. I already had children, and I had to work up through that and worked for a factory as an industrial electrician for 8 years. And I also worked for my uncle. He owns his own electrical business. I worked for him for 5 years. And it was in 2020 when I went out on my own, decided it was time to take that step to go out on my own. And I haven't looked back. I mean, it's been an excellent experience. I went through a lot of hard times during all the training. I mean, setbacks, ups and downs, like you do with anything you do in life. But I persevered through it, and it all prepared me for where I'm at now. And if I hadn't had to go through those situations, I wouldn't have been prepared to run my own business like I am now.
Yes, sir. Now, do you cover kind of Pulaski area, Withville, kind of all those counties around there?
Yeah, well, I actually live in Galax, Virginia, and so I mostly do Galax, Hillsville, Independence, which is Carroll and Grayson County.
Okay.
I will go into Patrick County, and I do some in Withville and Wythe County.
Okay.
I don't like. I try to stay within like an hour from where I'm at.
Okay. So you reside in Galax. That's where you.
I do.
Okay. Yes, sir. Yeah. So viewers, if you need plumbing or electric, hit up Webb Plumbing and Electric there. And do you have a Facebook page for that as well?
I do. It's Brandon Webb Electrical and Plumbing on Facebook.
Okay.
And you can search me on Google. It's Brandon Webb Electrical and Plumbing.
Yes, sir. And I'll add that when I got little slides in with the podcast. I'll add that on there so everybody can see where to find you on that.
All right.
So you told me that your upcoming fight is at light heavyweight. I like to ask the folks about this too. Do you kind of walk around at that weight, or do you have to cut a little bit into training camp? What's kind of your process for being able to compete at light heavyweight in terms of managing that weight?
Yeah, I walk around quite a bit over that actually. So when I begin my training camp is when I start getting that weight under control, mostly with diet, because sometimes with my work I can't eat the cleanest. But once I know that I've got this fight schedule, I clean the diet up and just start working on that. And I try to get my weight down pretty well before the event starts. So I don't cut a lot like the last week, because I don't want it to, especially at my age, affect my endurance and things like that. I want my body to have time to transition to that weight that I'm at.
Yes, sir. Yep. That makes a lot of sense. So I wanted to go ahead and harp this. So like we discussed earlier in the interview, At Titans of the Cage 33, you will be in the co-main event fighting for the light heavyweight title against Chris Hamlet. Talk with me a little bit about your preparation for this, how your training camp's been going, and just how you're feeling with that.
My training camp's been going excellent. It's actually one of the best ones I've had, as far as how my body feels and the progress we're making. And I don't want to give away much of any kind of game plans, but I'm prepared for anywhere that this fight can take place at inside mixed martial arts, because ring combat sports, they're some of the best coaches in the business, and they'll prepare you for every place that you could be in to the best of their ability. It's not like it's a one-sided skill set.
Yes, sir. Now, heading into this fight, do you kind of have a prediction for it, or just gonna kind of let it go how it goes?
Well, I'm prepared for 5 rounds of war, and I'm really believing that this could be a fight of the night candidate. Now, of course, I'm sure I would like to get it done early, as well as I'm sure he'd like to get it done early. But I'm prepared to stand there and put on a show for the fans.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, sir. So kind of the last few questions I got for you here, just kind of some fun ones that I like to kind of throw out here at the end. Do you currently, some people, that do combat, they don't like keeping up with it and all that on TV. Do you keep up with combat sports on TV, kind of any of the promotions?
Yeah, I do. Primarily UFC. I watch every single pay-per-view event they have, and a lot of the fight nights. And then I've recently started keeping up with some BKFC, the bare knuckle boxing, and karate combat. I really like the karate combat where it's full contact.
Okay. Did you happen to watch the UFC fight last night between Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo?
Yes, I did.
What was your thoughts on that?
Well, going into the fight, I knew that it was, pretty much a toss-up, but I kind of gave Henry Cejudo the edge, so I was a little bit surprised that Aljamain Sterling was able to do as well as he did. I'm not highly surprised, but I mean, Henry Cejudo, he's hard to do the kind of things that Sterling done to him. He's hard to take down. He's hard to control on the ground. So, but it was a good fight. It could have went either way.
I agree. Now, do you think Sean O'Malley's going to provide a good challenge for Aljamain Sterling, since it looks like that's what's next for those two?
Well, in my opinion, it depends on how Aljamain Sterling approaches the fight. Like, if he fights like he always does, mixes it up well, I think he's got a huge advantage. But sometimes fighters fall into the trap of saying, I'm going to beat him at his game. And if he tries to stand with Sean O'Malley, I don't think it's going to go that well for him.
Yes, sir. I agree with you on that. I think it's going to be hard to stand with O'Malley the way his striking is. Now, do you have a favorite UFC fighter that you kind of follow?
That's a hard question for me. I can't pick a favorite, but I do have some I like. I like Robert Whitaker. He's one of my favorites. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He's one of my favorites. Tony Ferguson always has been. I know he's on downhill slide, but the dude's well-rounded, and he comes to fight. I like that kind of style, unorthodox style he's got. And let's see. Oh, Yair Rodriguez is one I've always liked and followed, and he's getting, better off the ground on his back and everything. So he's getting highly dangerous because his stand-up's second to none, I think, in the division. But
yes, sir. That's a good crew you just listed. And you talked about BKFC. I kind of like that promotion. I like where that's going. I think Mike Perry's really solidified himself in that. Mike Perry was one of my favorite UFC fighters, so I'm glad that he's kind of moved up to the top of the ranks there. And the sport got bigger because Connor went in there and did a face-off with him. So I feel like that kind of gave BKFC a little bit more. So what's kind of your thoughts on BKFC and what they're doing?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I believe it's growing dramatically. And I also agree with you on Mike Perry. the dude's a beast. I mean, I always liked watching him fight in the UFC, but you know, he wasn't as well rounded to make it as high in the rankings. But that sport's made for him. That dude comes to fight. He's got that dog in him, and you're gonna have to knock him out. I mean, he'll walk through the punches if you don't. So I'm very excited watching him and some of these other UFC fighters that's going in there and helping build the name up. That Alvarez Mendez, that was a heck of a fight.
Yes, sir. I
But
agree.
but man, it is brutal though. It ain't for everybody. Like Donald Cerrone said when they asked him, he said, "No thanks."
Yeah. um, Next question here. This is a good one I like to ask. Do you kind of have a pre-fight ritual or a song or artist that you listen to or do before the fight to get you into that right mindset you need to be when you're going out there to perform?
Yeah, I'm a very spiritual person of faith, so I always I give glory to God in anything I do, the Lord, and thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So I try to listen to songs that's focused on that,
Yep.
and that reminds me of my faith, and I picked out a walkout song that's it's a Christian based walkout song, but it's still got a good beat to it. So you know it'll get you pumped and ready to go. But that's pretty much my pre-fight ritual. But that's anything in life. Anything I do, I give it to God first. I talk to him about it, and then we go from there. And then I put my work in. And when I put my work in, he shows up and helps me and does the rest.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Respect, respect. Thank you for sharing that. I agree with you. I myself, I like listening to. You talked about upbeat kind of Christian music. I like listening to Lecrae. That he's kind of upbeat rap for me.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
doing that. That helps me get through my workouts and everything.
Oh, yeah.
So respect. Thank you for sharing that. Now, would you mind sharing what the kind of artists you like and that you're listening to for that music to get you ready?
Yeah, I like Dave Crowder Band. Let's see. I've just recently tried to find some of these more upbeat Christian things, so I can't remember the name of some of them. But Zonti, he's one of them. He does Christian rap.
Yeah.
I didn't lose you, did I?
Oh, we might have had a little glitch, but it looks good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Pretty much Crowder, Zonti, some of the other Christian rappers. I don't really know their names. I'm not familiar with them because I'm just getting into that genre of music.
Yeah.
But I do like a lot of Viking music too. I like Viking stuff. And man, that can get you pumped and ready for combat. But I couldn't feel comfortable using it, seeing how they worshipped pagan gods and Odin and things like that. So
Yes,
that's why
sir.
I chose the route I did.
Now, last question here I got for you. This is a good one. So let's say, maybe there's a kid or just a fan in the audience at Titans of the Cage 33 who's never seen you fight before. What impression do you want them to walk out with of you that night on May 20th?
I want them to walk out with the impression that I gave it my all. You know, no matter the outcome, I didn't leave anything in. I left everything in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want 100% effort, and I want them to see that. And I want them to see that if you believe in yourself, that you can do things that you believe in.
Hey, I respect that. Yes, sir. I think that's very well put. Now, last kind of thing here, Brandon, I want to leave the floor to you. Do you have any shout outs or anybody you want to shout out here? And the floor is yours.
All right. Yeah. Of course, first I'll say thanks to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and then we'll go on to ring combat sports. Man, I'm glad that I found these people and got involved with them. The best trainers there are, and the best people that you could ever meet. So I'm glad that I'll give a shout out to them and all my teammates that it takes them too. I mean, you know, it's not a one person sport. You've got to have the teammates that can go in there and train and push you and make you get better. So shout out to all them and anybody else that's influenced my martial arts. Grandmaster Dean Powell's there in Florida, Craig Cruz and Gay Lax. And then also shout out to my family and my wife. I mean, she's my biggest supporter and she sacrifices a lot of time away from me because where my work schedule's so busy too, and then where I'm training regularly, it takes time away from her. But she's still supporting me in this journey. So thanks to her and just everybody that's helped me out.
Yes, sir. Hey, well, Fight Bros listeners, you heard it here first. If you're looking for tickets for Titans of the Cage 33, check out titansofthecage.com. You want to come check out the co-main event? We got Brandon Webb versus Chris Hamlet for the light heavyweight title. Going down May 20th at the Withville Meeting Center. Brandon, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and just taking time out of your day to talk with me a little bit. Definitely wanted to highlight you ahead of your fight coming up on May 20th. And yeah, I just want to thank you for the time. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Brandon, I'll end this and then we'll finish out. I'll just end this.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Fight Bros podcast. If you like what you heard today, like us on Facebook and like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Thanks for all your support.